1968 and Britain's love affair with air travel is blooming, so much so that an inquiry is set up to decide where to build a third London airport. 48 years later, we still haven't decided where an extra runway might go. But we do have lots of protesters. Well, while we struggle with where to put one runway, China is currently building 30 new airports and expanding another 60. But maybe it's not fair to just look at China. Major global transport projects always take a long time to get off the ground, don't they? Rusky Bridge, the world's longest cable-stayed bridge. AVE, Spain's high-speed railway network. The Blanca Tunnel, Portman Bridge in Vancouver. Copenhagen Metro, the Milan-Bologna high-speed railway. Just a few extremely large construction projects that appear to have been finished in the time we've been wringing our hands about an airport runway. So why have we spent decades debating runways that never get built? Well, this is where it all began, the picturesque Buckinghamshire village of Stukely. Back in 1970, after 2 years of deliberation, the Roskill Inquiry decided that Britain's new mega airport, known as Cublington, should be built right here. Well, this is the original paperwork for the Cublington Airport. There it is in that red box there. But you can see more detail on this plan, where you can see no fewer than 4 different runways were proposed, including the demolition of 3 different villages, including this one, Stukely, and its Norman church. Well, this whole plan caved in under huge pressure in the early 70s. And 45 years later, we're still waiting for 1 runway, let alone 4.
So this is the memorial.
The airport plan floundered on the back of fierce local protests. They planted a wood and built a Concorde-shaped memorial to commemorate a triumph that had turned calm people into would-be vigilantes.
In a parallel universe, we'd be in the middle of Britain's biggest airport. But no, we're not. We won the campaign. When you threaten people's homes and way of life, they're going to look to how best they can defend that. And they were using every method possible. They used the law to start within the public inquiries. They used the getting public opinion behind them. And then at the last ditch, they needed to protect their homes themselves, and they would have done it.
With what?
Well, the leaflets that were going around were about petrol bombs and bows and arrows and crossbows.
Tempers have calmed, runways remain unbuilt. But there are clues the government now wants to start spending on these huge bits of infrastructure.
To build an economy that works for everyone, we must also invest in the things that matter, the things with a long-term return. That's how we will address the weaknesses in our economy, improve our productivity, increase economic growth, and ensure everyone gets a fair share.
So if we are going to spend billions on a runway, who gets it? Well, it's down to Heathrow or Gatwick, with a decision expected shortly and supporters still divided.
Thousands of people have their lives shortened every year because of poor air quality. Heathrow cannot comply with those limits to which we are legally bound. That is one of the reasons why this will be tied up in the courts for years, whereas you just don't get those same kind of problems with air quality, with noise, or with the practicalities of delivering the project. You don't get those with Gatwick. The question is, why try to build a new runway at Heathrow when you could build one at Gatwick in half the time, for half the cost, with a fraction of the risk and a tiny fraction of the environmental impact?
Are you still convinced that Heathrow is the right place?
I'm convinced, I've always been convinced. As we're finding our way in a new global landscape, we need an international hub that can really boost and provide that impetus that this city and the country needs. And there's no better time. There's been lots of good times, but it really has to happen now. It has to be Heathrow.
But here's what makes it precarious. Heathrow is surrounded by the constituencies of high-profile Conservatives, including the Prime Minister, the Chancellor and the Foreign Secretary. Local politics affecting a huge national issue. They've heard that one in Stukely.
In Tory heartland, I guess you could say Heathrow is probably in Tory heartland as well. But I can't think of how a Tory government would have put a major airport like that in the middle of that heartland.
This field was once earmarked to be a runway, the airport that never was. A reminder that our aviation planning is a long way off jet speed.